Dave again. So welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to talk about this article that I just came across in Engadget. So Domino's down in Houston has started rolling out pizza delivery via an autonomous vehicle. So I know this isn't anything new, like we've heard about this for a long time. They actually announced this a couple of years ago, but it seems like they finally got the kinks worked out and they're actually executing on it now. So let me read you sort of what Domino's has said about the thing, and then we'll watch a couple quick little videos and we'll see sort of how the process works, and then we'll run through how I think this is going to impact a much larger swath of the employment sector. If you're in this, I highly encourage you to start planning and making moves now to get ahead of this. But anyway, let's read Domino's point of view, and then we'll dive into the autonomous vehicle company and the benefits they say they're bringing to it. So Domino's says R2 is the first fully self-driving on-road delivery vehicle to receive regulatory approval from the Department of Transportation. On certain days and times, folks who order from a Domino's location in Woodland Heights can choose to have R2 deliver their food. They can track R2's location via text alerts or on the ordering confirmation page. Domino's will provide customers with a PIN which they can punch into R2's touchscreen and retrieve their order. So basically, I'll put up a picture of So it's got two large compartments in it, and basically you go up to the side, you key in the PIN number that Domino's gives you, the door opens, and you can take out your pizza, and then you accept the pizza as it showed up fine, or you reject it as it didn't show up fine. And I'm sure it's cameraed in there and all that kind of stuff. That piece I don't know, but I'm assuming. So basically, no delivery driver. Now, do I think everyone's going to be thrilled about this? No, because you're going to have to go out to the curb, so it doesn't come directly to your door, but it gets pretty darn close. I think a lot of people will opt for this, especially if it's free delivery. You know, a lot of people don't like to tip a delivery driver. This eliminates the need for that. I think adoption for this could be quite big. So this company, this R2, I think someone's a Star Wars fan, but I think so this robot's made by a company called Nuro. So basically, from Nuro's point of view, they outline the process for a different customer of theirs, a whole different segment. So basically in this process on their website, they outline customers order groceries and other products online from one of their partner stores. And groceries, I think, is set for a huge disruption for this, and we'll get into it a little bit further. Items are picked and packed in store and brought to the waiting delivery AV. A notification lets customers know when their delivery has arrived. Once the customer has unloaded and accepted the goods, the delivery AV vehicle drives on to the next customer. So a lot like our Domino's scenario, but now think Walmart, Kroger, which are actually already partners with Nuro. So basically, these guys are already looking at this, and it's already in, I would assume, other pilot programs. So basically on Nuro's website, they do an economic impact study done by the Steer Group. And so the Steer Group found that delivery AVs will create and sustain 24.4 million jobs from 2025 to 2035 in the US. Creating a meaningful local delivery service requires long-term investments in communities and employees who will join us on our mission. That means more jobs, such as, I mean, there's some propaganda for you, but let's get into the jobs that they say this will create. So it will create grocery store employees to pick and pack fresh food being delivered into our neighborhoods. Let's come back and revisit that one in a minute. Mechanics and technicians to assemble and maintain an entirely new fleet of small electric vehicles. Fair enough. Engineers to invent lighter weight parts and components that make a vehicle safer on the roads. Probably so. Software developers to constantly iterate and improve upon autonomous vehicle driving systems. Fair enough. Fleet managers, environmental health and safety specialists, industrial designers, city and community engagement professionals, transportation planners, and a resurgence of other jobs across local retail businesses. All right. So there's they're advocating and saying that AVs are going to create a lot of jobs. Now, we'll get down into the percentage of how these jobs break down in a minute. Let's go through the rest of their sales pitch as to why AVs are so great. So approximately 21 billion person hours can be saved between 2025 and 2035 in the gradual shift scenario. There's multiple scenarios within this economic study, and I'm trying to give you the gentle one, not the most aggressive one. This is by far and away the least impactful one as it's outlined in the thing. So basically 21 billion person hours works out to roughly 11 vacation days per year per person using the service. So what they're trying to say is basically you'll save 11 days a year not going to the grocery store or or going to get a pizza, some of these other errands that you typically do where you get in your car and you drive somewhere. So in their disruptive scenario, just to give you an example, which is the more extreme case, they say that this number would be 50% higher. It's quite significant, so we went with the conservative one. So in continuing to kind of push and give their advantages for this service, so basically they use cost as another one, which it should be a factor in this, absolutely. So current grocery delivery services nationally can charge anywhere between $10 and $20 per delivery. They're saying that AV pilots that have already been started and are going on, especially like this one, basically they can get the cost down to approximately $5.95. So let's say half the current cost. It could be even more if you're looking at that high end. But so half the cost, and their end goal is to get to closer to $0. And I suspect if they can get that cost down some, a lot of these retailers will eat this cost just to get you to order from them. And $0 is not outside of the realm, especially once you're talking $1-2 for the retailer to eat. I don't think they'll have a problem with that. I think there's enough margin in there that can make that happen. So they go on and they highlight one more scenario where they see this being adopted by the consumer population. And definitely they have another autonomous driving program, not delivering yet, but they're testing it in California. And when I read this, it definitely reeks of California, because it definitely sounds like something California would do. Now, California's passed a bunch of this. There's 11 other states that are getting on board to join in. But basically what they say is policy initiatives to promote sustainable transportation and a rise of the cost of car ownership and maintenance, on average, more than 15% of income per capita, has led to a steady 1 to 2% annual decline in the motorization rate since 2013. So what does that mean? So basically, because cars are getting more expensive and maintaining cars are getting more expensive, the whole ecosystem's getting more expensive, that fewer people are buying cars or using cars. And in urban settings, absolutely 100% agree with the proliferation of Uber and Lyft. In an urban setting, a lot of people don't have cars. Out here in Wyoming, would that work? I don't think so. But they're saying with the evolving attitudes towards car ownership, it's likely to continue, although there are significant variations in the motorization rate across the U.S. We just talked about that. We expect the outcomes of this trend to positively impact consumers' willingness to replace certain private vehicle trips with alternative options. For example, home deliveries. So what they're saying is people are going to be less apt, especially as gas prices continue to skyrocket, which everyone is seeing right now. As gas prices go up, as the cost of cars get more expensive, people are more apt to just leave the car parked than they are to go get in it and go use it, which it was bought for. I don't think, as much as I make a joke of it, I don't think that's that far off, and I don't think it's that wrong. So people inherently like to be, I don't want to call people lazy, but they like to stay at home in their pajamas rather than go to Walmart. I hate going to Walmart. Walmart here is a miserable experience. So I get it and I understand. If nothing else, it's not that I don't want to drive there, it's just that I don't want to be there. So the market for this, in their closing piece, and then we'll circle back around and we'll talk about the grocery store jobs. So by 2035, for just the gradual shift, which is our lowest level scenario that the article outlines, 192 billion private vehicle trips could be potentially replaced by AV services. So 192 billion trips. So that's 192 billion times we didn't go to the store and we let stuff get delivered that we're currently doing. That's quite a large market over 14 years or so, give or take. So you make the decision for yourself. I mean, I don't know that this AV delivery is going to be for everybody. Not in its current form, not with where you have to go out to the car, and we'll call it a car. You have to go out to the AV vehicle thing and get your stuff out of it. I think some people will be reluctant for that. I think some people will see the cost benefit and knowing that they don't have to tip the driver. I think people will opt for that. So I do think there's a market here. I do think this will grow quickly. To give you a perspective, here, DoorDash just showed up and people are over the moon about that one. I think that one's really expensive for restaurants. That's that like 30% range for a delivery fee for restaurants. Like, it gets really prohibitively expensive. It puts your small average restaurant in a serious just financial pinch to be able to use something like DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatnot. I think if they could get it down to $0, whatever, you'll see a lot of local restaurants jump on the bandwagon in a hurry. If there's no cost to them, they don't have to pass on a higher cost to their customers, so they're not losing orders. Absolutely, slam some food in the car and let it roll. But in this article, and this is the big one. So, clearly grocery is the big end game here. It's not restaurants. It's not Domino's. Much as they're the start, it's restaurants for sure. I mean, grocery stores for sure. Walmart and Kroger. There's a reason that they're already tied to this company and they're advertising on their website with them. So in the gradual shift, 85% of the 24.4 million direct employment created by AVs would be required to be pick and pack workers in the grocery space. Now, they go on to say that the remaining 15% would include software engineers, fleet technicians, business support staff. The top industries to generate additional indirect and induced employment include warehousing and storage, 15% of indirect and induced newly employment. Restaurants would increase by 5%, real estate 3%, and the top industries combined would count for 80% of new employment generated, representing 26 million jobs by 2035. Now, I don't think that the pick and packers are really going to explode like they say. In the short term, perhaps, as the retail guys draw from the inventory they have on the floor that you and I shop in. But if you think somebody like an Amazon or even a Walmart isn't going to do warehousing to just dispatch all of this stuff out of to cover a larger area and not have employees, warehouse automation is way far ahead of this AV space. There's nothing to say that they're not going to automate that to just pick the order and load it into the vehicle and send it out. I think it's a bit short-sighted in the economic study to say that 85% of those jobs are going to come out and that number is going to sustain. I think by 2035 you're going to see automated packers for this sort of stuff, and that this number never really comes to fruition. Technology just doesn't allow it. It's way too deflationary. Like, to get the cost down to zero, you can't hire that many pickers and packers. Like, it would drive the cost up. So in order to continue the race to the bottom to make it as cheap as possible, you have to take the human component out of it. You have to take $15 an hour labor out of it, especially with payroll taxes and Social Security and everything else that's included in that $15 an hour, which really isn't $15 an hour. So I don't think we see this many jobs out of this. I think it comes. I think it disrupts. I do think where it highlights fleet technicians. What's a fleet technician? A fleet technician handles things like vehicle maintenance, sensor calibration, EV charging, cleaning, dispatching, and oversight during operations. Absolutely. I think there are jobs created there. Do I think they're 85% of 24.4 million jobs? No. You don't really need a whole lot of people to maintain these things. I'm sure they eventually will get low enough costs that they're almost just easier to replace than they are to fix. But so I think if you could get in with one of these fleet technician positions, you've got something. I don't know what kind of training that takes. Do you need an electrical engineering degree? I would hope not, but I don't know. I would just be really wary of this. I think if you're working in the grocery space, if you're working, if Uber delivery or Lyft delivery or DoorDash or any of that kind of stuff is a way that you make income, start thinking about other things that you're good at, things that you want to pivot to and you want to go to. If you own DoorDash or Uber stock, or you're investing in Grubhub, or you're investing in any of these delivery services, maybe take some profits and go invest that money somewhere else, because this disruption's coming. They're saying by 2025. It seems like they're off to a great start already. I wouldn't be surprised if this starts earlier rolling. Once a city the size of Houston approves this and goes, there's not a lot of other cities out there that are going to push back and say, nah, we don't want that. Like, the technology will be proven by then into a large urban environment. What's the regulatory hurdle there? So be ready. This is just another continuation of technology disrupting jobs. The rich are going to get richer, the poor are going to get poorer if you're not getting out ahead of this. Like, you have to get into assets, start businesses, buy real estate. I don't know that I invest in the stock market right now. It's way overpriced, but and we'll do some videos on that. We'll talk about that the rest of the week. But I wanted to bring this to your guys' attention. If you're driving for these services, if you're working in a grocery store, start to think about other things that you can do. You've got a little bit of time here, maybe 4 years or so, and it depends on which market you live in, but it's coming, and you don't want to get caught off guard. You don't want to end up in a scenario where you have to live off a UBI or be dependent on the government or whatnot. Think about what you're good at, find another career, and start moving in that direction. Get whatever training and learning that you need to do out of the way. So, no doom and gloom. I think it'll be a win-win for society. It'll definitely make life a lot easier, and it'll free people up more time. But if you're in that industry, you just need to make some plans. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next one.